Briterion Bollection is back, bitches.
Oh, again.
It's just become a trademark. What can I say? It just rolls off the tongue, you know.
Not for me.
The alliteration of it. People love it.
How do you know?
I don't know. Seems like they love it.
I don't.
Here's Tom. He's jumping on my laptop again.
I don't think he loves it because he's getting in the way of
He's
your
trying
work
to
right
intervene.
now.
Okay.
Yes.
Maybe he doesn't like it, but you know he's pretty picky.
Well,
This guy.
I guess I don't blame him that.
Okay. So yeah, we're back. The movie we're doing today is I think it's pretty timely.
I would assume so.
It's timely because it's there's a version of this story that's in the public eye right now,
and not in a good way.
Yeah,
at least not for the general public.
Yeah, but that's not the version that we're doing actually. So as you may know, there is a Disney live action Snow White film, right? That's making the rounds right now.
Yes.
Haven't seen it, but I've heard pretty bad things about it. Mm-hmm. I've heard that the ending of the movie looks like a Diddy party or something.
Yeah, that's already a bad sign, and that's not even the worst part of it, honestly.
Yeah. Which is saying something, honestly. So because of this film being out there right now, I thought we would cover a film that goes over kind of the same story, but in a very different manner and in a much better manner, I would say. Mm-hmm. And so the film we're talking about today is the Spanish film Blancanieves, which came out in 2012. Mm-hmm. And this was directed by a director named Pablo Berger. He's a Spanish director. I don't really know his other work. I guess he did a film, Torremolinos 73 is what it's called. He did, I guess he did this Robot Dreams that came out in 2023 and really started being released last year. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize that it was a Spanish film. I thought this Robot Dreams, I thought it was like some indie American animated film or something like that.
Yeah, you would think so.
Yeah. Well, now that I see he's the director, I kind of want to see it. I wasn't that interested before, but Blancanieves is the only film I've seen of his, and I'm very impressed by this film.
Yeah. And also, before he forgot to introduce us. I just noticed.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I got too caught up in the Briterion bitches thing.
Yeah, this is why you need to turn that down a notch, because I feel like you forget the most important stuff here.
Okay. So that was like a flash forward, basically. I flash forward you with this bitches and the story of the film.
Okay, we need to stop here.
So I'm your host, Kevin. This is my wife, Aileen.
Hello.
And thank you for tuning in to Briterion Bollection today. So as I said, we're going to be talking about the 2012 film Blancanieves, which is a Spanish version of Snow White. So the Disney film is getting a lot of controversy. Even when it was announced, it got a lot of controversy. I know I read an interview with Peter Dinklage right when it was announced, and he was pissed when he heard that this was coming out. You can Google it. He said something like, "They're still making that fucking story with fucking doors and fucking cave and fucking bitch." He was really pissed. He just doesn't like the dwarf stereotype, I guess.
I think mostly what he was really upset about is that when he found out that the dwarves would be created through CGI, and not actually hire, little people actors. I
Mm-hmm.
think I'm pretty sure that that's what he was mostly upset about. It's like there's a lot of talent out there that cannot find enough work, and that's
Mm-hmm.
pretty problematic.
Right.
Especially for Hollywood
Yeah. No,
or
you're right.
overall the thing in general in the entertainment industry. It's a huge issue.
Yeah, and hopefully things are getting better. Um, in that sense, but based on this film, I guess not really. But I think I'm positive for the future of film as far as representation of people with disabilities. Um, so this is the good version of Snow White. This is the I would say is maybe the best version that I've seen.
Yeah, not perfect, but still probably the best one.
Yeah. Um, so I remember this coming out. I guess it came out in 2012 in Spain, but I think it didn't come out till the next year in the U.S. And
as it usually happens with most foreign content.
yeah, there's a delay. And I saw it was gonna play at the Landmark Theater because they always had like the little calendar that would come out, and I saw it there, and I was like, oh, like Maribel Verdu is in this. I was like, oh, I want to see that, and was saying that it was in black and white and it was silent. So I was like, oh wow, that's unusual.
Mm-hmm.
But what was weird is that. So yeah, this film is in black and white, and it is a silent film. Like a 20s style silent film.
Yeah.
And that year was kind of hot for silent film because also the other film, The Artist.
Well, the art.
So it was like all of a sudden, silent film was the new rock and roll. Like it just came out, out of nowhere and took over the world for a little bit. Uh, well, The Artist was a lot more renowned and won some Oscars and stuff like that. But this film, Blancanieves, it did do pretty well in Spain and did well at their Goya Awards, which are like their Oscars. It won 10 Goya Awards, including Best Film. That's pretty damn good. And to me, it deserves it because I think it's a really good film. I mean, for you people out there who haven't seen it, I would really urge you to watch this film. It's on Tubi right now for all my Tubi homies. I'm a big Tubi guy.
Yeah, I can attest to.
Ever since I heard about Tubi a few years ago, I've been hooked on the Tubi. I think they have a lot of good obscure stuff. They got a lot of good foreign stuff, which is what I love about it. Yeah, got to peep the Tubi if you're not hip to the Tubi yet. So you can watch this film on Tubi right now, Blancanieves. Seems like they've had it for a while. Like I haven't seen them put it on their leaving soon or their chopping block anytime soon. It's alive and well on Tubi. So watch this film if you haven't seen it on at all yet. So let me go to the Wikipedia plot description.
Sure.
So it says, as a Spanish adaptation of the Brother Grimm fairy tale Snow White, the film Blancanieves follows the life of Carmen. Her mother died during childbirth, and her father was left paralyzed after a traumatic bullfighting incident shortly before her birth. Her grandmother cares for her, but after her death she is left in the care of her stepmother, who married her father for his fame and riches he accumulated as a bullfighter. She mistreats Carmen's father as he is often left helpless in a room. However, Carmen spends time communicating as best as she can with her father. So, that's what Wikipedia says. So the film starts off and we hear this like orchestral music before we see any images, and we just see the title card pop up, and it opens with these curtains, and these curtains open up like we're in a movie theater, like an old school movie theater, which was more like based on the theater, like plays and stuff like that. So it had a lot of stuff like, the curtains, which, you don't necessarily need with film, but it's just a tradition. And we see Maribel Verdu is in this, and anytime I see her, happy to see her. She's a great actress.
Yes.
She's been in a lot of great films. Y tu ama también.
Yes, I'm sure that that's one of the ones that people. She
Yeah.
was also in Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah, Pan's Labyrinth. She's worked with all the, except for, I guess, Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu. I don't think she's worked with him in anything, right?
Not that I know.
But she has worked with Cuarón and Guillermo del Toro.
Yes, that's pretty big deal. But they are, I mean, which is interesting because they both are Mexican filmmakers.
Yeah, and she's Spanish. She's also worked with Almodovar. She was in Live Flesh from him. I'm not sure if she's been in other ones, believe it or not, by him.
Yeah, I don't think I remember her.
Yeah. Actually, when I think about it, was she on Live Flesh? No.
You know what?
No, I'm trying to remember. I might be confusing her with Penelope Cruz and that.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Well, I mean, she's been in a lot of stuff, so.
Yeah, she has. But she was in the film Belle Epoque, which was directed by Fernando Trueba, and that was that won the Oscar for Best Foreign Film that year. Penelope Cruz is also in that film. Yeah, I think Maribel is great. She's had a great career. She's been doing it for a long ass time, and she still looks pretty young, honestly. So in the film, we see her pretty soon in the film, and that's nice to see. And
yeah, I don't actually. I'm looking her up right now. I don't think she was in Live Flesh.
Yeah, I guess not. I mean, to me, that's crazy. If she's never worked with Pedro Almodovar, like, that's shocking. I mean, you would have thought they would have worked together a lot.
Yeah, you would think.
That's crazy. I mean, come on, Pedro, get her on the horn. I mean, you could be missing one of your great muses as far as not working with her. And the fact that this is in black and white and it's silent, they would say that about the old school silent films, like, because they didn't have to worry about sound, the camera was so much more liberated. And when you look at those old school black and white films, you see the camera work is crazy. It's off the chain. Like, and they really capture that with this too. The cinematography is amazing.
They had to make the most of it, considering that they didn't have sound.
Yeah, exactly. So there's some amazing shots in silent old school films, and there's some amazing shots in this film. And in a way, I feel like this movie works better than other versions of Snow White you may have seen, especially this new Snow White. I feel like this Spanish version works a lot better because it's so specific to the culture. Actually, that's part of the strengths of it. A lot of Hollywood movies, they try to like take out culture in a way. They just try to make it as like basic as possible because they don't think it'll translate to other cultures. You know what I'm saying?
In general, the average person out there is very basic. They don't think beyond of how they can, incorporate a different concept or theme into something. So
yeah,
it's just that just shows you that a lot of people are just too straightforward and just overall. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, like, to me, that's why this film works so well, is because it's so specific to Spanish culture. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think they could probably redo Snow White, in any culture. I think as long as you embrace whatever culture you're doing it in. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's what makes this film work so well. And they chose a lot of great actors. Like, Maribel's acting in this is great. She's not, you don't hear the words she's saying, but just her face says it all. She's very expressive. And so we see the like cityscape of like a town in Spain, and you see people flocking to a bullfight, and so I guess this is in Sevilla, where this takes place, and that's like kind of where the main like bullfighting sort of takes place in Spain, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the bullfighting, I have something to say about it later on, but yeah, you can keep going.
Yeah. So we see a bullfighter getting dressed, and the actor is Daniel Jimenez Cacho, right?
Yes, another great actor.
Yeah, another great Spanish actor, but he's done a lot of work in Mexico as well.
Yeah, well, in reality, he grew up in Mexico City, so.
Yeah. But yeah, he's great, and we actually got to see him in person, right?
Yeah, he was doing an interview, and I would have at least liked to say hi to him, but he left the place really quickly after that.
yeah, but we were lucky we got to see him. He's had a great filmography as well. He's also worked with, he has worked with all three of them. He's worked with Cuarón.
Yes.
He was in Solo con tu pareja, and that was Cuarón.
He worked with him quite a few times, right?
Yeah. He does the narration on Y tu mamá también.
Yes, which was I thought it was, he did a really good job narrating the movie.
Yeah, exactly. He did Kronos with Guillermo del Toro. He did Estás matando Susana, which we love that film, right?
Yes.
And he did Bardo with González Iñárritu. He's been in Club de Cuervos. He did Sama. He did the film Sama, directed by Lucrecia Martel. He's done a lot of great stuff. He was in Bad Education from Almodóvar.
Yeah, one that...
Not his best film.
No, it's not, and it's the one that I've recommended some family members. That was a huge... I don't
know why you would do that.
Yeah, that was really dumb of
me. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I didn't think I would cause this much turmoil.
Yeah, that's not a good recommendation. That's not even one of his good movies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was part of my mistake.
Yeah. No, I would say, that isn't one of his best films. But even in his worst films of Almodóvar, even in his worst films like that film, there's still something to salvage from it. So, what I loved about Bad Education was the very end. So at the very end, you see this kind of weird thing on the screen where you see like a bunch of squares, and it shows like each character. Okay, this is what happened to each character after this, and you see that on the screen, and then it tells you what happened to the main guy, like the director character in the film.
Yes.
And it said, this is the part that made the film all worthwhile to me. Because it says, he continues to make films with passion. And then it zooms into the word passion, and it's like passion. The word passion just fills the screen, and that's what made the film great for me. It wasn't a great film, but to me, that made it worthwhile. Just that part of stressing the passion. You know what I'm saying? Like that's why we're supposed to be living life. You know what I'm saying? We're supposed to be living life with passion and doing what we love, so that's why I think that film was worthwhile. For that, just that ending made it all worthwhile. And it's kind of interesting because, we were talking about Partenope in the last one, and how I was saying this kind of feels like Sorrentino's Babylon, you know. And so this film, this is like a silent 20s film. This is like the type of movie they were making right when Babylon starts off. You know what
Oh
I'm
yeah,
saying?
of
Like
course.
this is like a Spanish version of the silent films that they were trying to do at that time. So yeah, we see the bullfighting arena, ring, stadium, whatever you want to call it, Coliseum. They show ladies in the crowd, and we see an older lady and a younger lady, and their the young lady is his wife, is the bullfighter's wife,
Mm-hmm.
and the older lady is that his mother or her mother? Um,
You mean the witch lady?
the older lady who's her grandma.
Oh yeah, it might be. I'm assuming it would be his
Her,
mom.
yeah,
I
not,
don't. I don't.
yeah.
That's the one part I didn't exactly get. Who
Who's
she
she
was
related? I
actually
guess she's. I think
related.
she's her mom because it's like, why would she be sitting right with her? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what
Usually,
I.
in-laws don't get along that well. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
well,
So,
I guess that. Well, that's a big stereotype, but I guess it does happen a lot.
yeah.
That's a good point.
So I
So
think
she might be
she's her
her
mom.
mom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they
No,
kind of
that's a
look alike. You know what I'm saying? And the
yeah.
fact
No,
that they
that's a
do flamenco. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. That
It
makes
makes sense.
perfect sense.
Yeah. So nice deductive reasoning we did there. So I love that actress they cast as his wife because she just has that old school look. You know what I'm saying? She looks like she's from the 20s. You know what I'm saying? Like she looks like from an old painting. You know, from back then, or old photos that you see from back then.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the actress who plays her mom, Angela Molina, she's a great Spanish actress. She was in Live Flesh. This time, I'm correct
Okay.
about
Now,
that.
yes. Okay.
So
Good.
she was in Live Flesh, Almodovar, and her career goes back to the 70s because she was in the Buñuel film,
Mm-hmm.
Obscure Object of Desire, which is a really cool film. I really like that film. You know, I don't think everyone would love that film, but I really like it. So what's cool about that movie is there's this older man, and he's obsessed with this young girl named Conchita, and she plays Conchita, but the two different actresses play Conchita. That's what's
Yeah.
funny about it. So there's a French actress who also plays her in the film, and in different scenes they play her. You know, but they don't mention anything about it. Like there's nothing like you know, you're just kind of like, okay. And this was before, you know, this was in the 70s. This was before, you know, they did that Bob Dylan "I'm Not Here" whatever, where it's like seven different actors playing the same, you know, playing Bob Dylan or whatever. You know what I'm saying? This was
Yeah.
back then. So a lot of people were like, was that on purpose, or was that like, some people think it was because they started shooting the film and then they couldn't get the actress again, so they just got someone else. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
um,
It's. I mean, it's kind of weird when they do that, but I guess if they already want to finish and they can't get the original, you don't have a. I guess you don't have a choice at that point.
yeah, but I mean, you see them both throughout the film, so it's not
Mm-hmm.
like the first half is one and the second half is another. They're both kind of share equal screen time throughout the whole film, so it's just
Mm-hmm.
kind of interesting. Yeah, if you ever get a chance to see that Buñuel film, that Obscure Object of Desire, it's a cool movie. So then we see Daniel Jimenez Cacho's character. So his name is Antonio Villalta, and he's the bullfighter, and he's in the ring, and they release the bull and he starts fighting it. You know, he starts
Oh yeah.
using the red cloth, to play with the bull. And I always like that matador hat. It's kind of like a Mickey Mouse-ish type of hat, but like flatter and like fuzzier. I'm not even really sure like how they make that, but I always like that
Hmm.
that matador hat.
What are you actually wearing one?
Maybe just as a novelty. I wouldn't go around wearing it. But it's funny that you mentioned that because
I mean, since you're
That's
saying that you like it.
well, I just find it a cool novelty. But no, it's funny that you mentioned that because so we were at Amoeba one time. We were at Amoeba Music,
Mm-hmm.
looking around, and we were looking in the in the books section or something. And I
Mm-hmm.
think you found something, a book, and you handed it to me, and it said Kevin's Hat. That's it said.
Oh, I think we ended up buying that
Yeah,
movie. Is it the kids'
no,
book?
it's a book. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a kid's book.
Yeah.
Um, so you handed it to me, and I was like, "Oh, that's funny,
Yeah, I
Kevin's
think
hat."
it's the one with the alligator.
Yeah, yeah,
It's an alligator
yeah,
named Kevin.
yeah. The alligator is named Kevin, and he wears this matador hat. Like he walks around, the town, and he sees this hat shop, and he sees this matador hat in the window. He's like, "Oh, I want to buy that." So
Mm-hmm.
then he buys it, and you handed it to me, and I was like, "I'll buy this just because it's Kevin's hat." You know what I'm saying? And it's only $1. So I was like, "Yeah, I'll buy this." So and then I bought it, and I briefly looked through it. I didn't really read it at the moment in the store or whatever. Even though it's a kids book, it's only like 20 pages or whatever. But then the next morning, I was actually reading the whole thing. I think you were asleep, and I was just looking through it. So I read the whole thing. He sees the matador hat in the window, and he buys it, and he's like, "Oh, it's so cool!" And he's like walking around town, and then people see him. They're like, "Why do you have that hat?" You know what I'm saying? They're like, "Why are you wearing that hat?" And everywhere he goes, he gets criticized. Like, "Why are you wearing that hat?" And he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh," he's all sad. So then he decides to throw the hat away.
Mm-hmm.
He like throws the hat, in the trash or something like that. But then he sees another friend, and they're like, "Oh, what happened to your hat?" And he was like, "Oh, I threw it away because people said I looked weird with it or whatever."
Mm-hmm.
And his friend tells him like, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that. Who cares what they think? You just,
Yeah.
you should do what you do. You know what I'm saying?" So then he's like, "Shit." He's like, he's like, "Okay." He's like, "Let me try to get the hat back," but he looks in the trash and it's gone or whatever. So then he goes to like the junkyard, and eventually he does find it, and he's like, he's happy again. He's happy that he has his hat. And I read the story, and I was like, "Oh, that's cute." Like how it's trying to say, be yourself, basically.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Don't let other people tear you
Destroy you.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was cute and uplifting. And then the kicker, like when I looked through the book, I looked at the copyright, and I saw the year, and the year is 1984, which
Or
is the year I was born. So everything was just perfect.
if you have not heard any of our past episodes, and I'm sure that at least one of our previous ones has mentioned that, Kevin has mentioned that he was born in 1984. So, yes, there you have it once again.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's to me, when I see things like that, it's like things are meant to be. You know what I'm saying? Kevin's hat, and it has my year. You know what I'm saying? And we're talking about matador hats, which we were talking about here on this podcast. So yeah, so in the film, he's playing with the bull, and he's like, kind of going with the crowd. He's doing some crowd control. You know what I'm saying? He's he's really like an MC with the crowd, and he pulls out the sword. The long matador sword that they have. It's almost looks like a fencing type of sword. And then he sees his wife in the crowd, so he throws his hat at his wife, but she doesn't catch it.
Yeah.
Like it falls right in front of her or whatever, and it's like a little foreshadowing. Um, and so right before he's about to kill the bull, um, there's a cameraman on the side, and the cameraman is like trying to get ready. He wants like this money shot of him killing the bull, or if something else happens. Either way, he wants to get ready for this money shot. And this whole thing, it kind of reminds me of Almodovar's film Talk to Her, because the woman in that film, she was a bullfighter. She was a female bullfighter, and you see her get gored in the ring on that fight. And I remember Almodovar, he consciously, it shows like them hauling her away, like in a stretcher. She's hurt,
Yeah.
and they're hauling her away, and you see from her perspective looking up as she's being hauled away. She's like looking up at the sky, and then you see a hand come out of nowhere on top of her and flash a picture.
Oh yeah.
Of her or whatever. I remember Almodovar was saying on the commentary of that, which is a great commentary. He hasn't done very many commentaries, but he did do one for Talk to Her. So if you haven't listened to that, you really need to listen to that. But I remember he pointed out how here this photography, or like that camera flash, as she's like dying possibly, he's like, that's the worst part. Honestly, he's like, that's worse than being killed by the bull, because the bull doesn't know what it's doing. It's just an animal. You know what I'm saying? Humans consciously try to hurt you with shit like that. You know what I'm saying? This paparazzi picture of her dying, basically.
I mean, I'm pretty sure the bull is also aware of other things. Maybe not in the same way that humans can be, but
yeah. That's what Almodovar said. I was just quoting him, basically. So this scene reminds me a lot of Talk to Her. And so he's about to kill the bull, but then the cameraman flashes a picture right at that moment, and it kind of distracts the bullfighter, and then the bull comes up and gores him. It just gores the hell out of him. And the montagery here is great. Like, it's really like frenetic and, Russian 20s editing meets Godard type of editing. It's really cool. And then I don't know if you noticed in that quick montage, you see like a frame of like a skull in the middle of that. Did you notice that at all? Like in all that, when he's getting gored, you see like a hella quick thing of like a skull in there, and that's like part of the, like the subliminalness of it. You know what I'm saying?
I remember. Yeah, like it's a very quick.
It's really fast. Yeah. So try to find that when you watch it.
Yeah.
And then we see the eye of the bull. It like zooms into the eye of the bull, and then it dissolves into his eye on the hospital bed. And he looks up and he sees his wife smiling over him, but then it dissolves and it's really Maribel Verdu.
Yeah.
And she's looking over him, and the other nurse tells her like, oh, he's so handsome and rich, and then she kind of gets gears working in her brain after hearing that.
Like, she already had a plan.
Yeah. So him on the hospital bed, that's juxtaposed with his wife on the hospital bed being rushed into labor, basically, and her mom, Angela Molina, she's like at her side, kind of crying with her. And it seems like his wife is in a lot of pain. She's screaming her ass off. And then she does give birth, but she's losing a lot of blood. You see all this blood coming out. And then, she looks over and, sees someone holding the baby, and then she smiles and she just dies. She just like fades out right there. And she has this locket with a picture of her husband in her hand, and her hand drops and the locket drops on the ground. It's a really cool shot. And that locket, it almost reminds me of Buñuel again, and Dali from Un Chien Andalou, the first film that they did, the silent, surreal film that they did. I remember seeing a lot of like locket imagery, and even reminds me of El Topo too, because you see his son in the beginning. He's like, oh, they're holding like a picture of his mom, but then they leave it in the sand there, and then you see as they're like walking away and he's on the horse, you see the picture of her in the sand. You know what I'm saying? Do you remember that at all from El Topo?
I mean, it's been a while since I've seen it. I would have to.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about it. So when we talk about it, we're gonna watch it, obviously.
Yeah. Well, speaking of El Topo, I do have to rewatch that movie before we talk about it. because there are some things that I do want to address about that movie, as I usually like to address a lot of things. So I'm sure for all our listeners, if they haven't noticed already.
Yeah. Thanks for the warning on that. First off, Jodorowsky is a genius to me.
He's pretty crazy.
He is, but he's brilliant to me. And he made all his best films in Mexico too.
Yeah, but he also exploited, which I'll talk about someday.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yes.
But yeah, that's how you see there's these connections with all these like Hispanic artists. You know what I'm saying? You know, this Blancanieves down to Jodorowsky, you know, down to Buñuel and Dali. You know what I'm saying? It's pretty cool to see that connection between them over generations. You know what I'm saying? So, and we see that a nurse announces her dead, the mom, his wife, and Maribel Verdu is happy. She's like giddy when she hears that.
Yeah, because that means like my opportunity will be coming.
She can slide in, you know. And then the look on her face, and then you see him playing with the ring on his finger. You know, she's like twiddling it, you know, when she hears that. It's a nice little touch. It's a nice evil touch of evil, I guess you could say. And so grandma is holding the baby, and Maribel looks at her like all pissed off. And she goes to show her to the dad, to Daniel Jimenez Cacho's character, but he just looks away. He shuns her. And I think he's just sad that his wife died giving birth to her, you know. So, you know, it's sad. He doesn't want to embrace the baby, but Maribel sees him kind of shun her, and she's like happy to see that. She likes that, you know. She likes that he's not interested in the baby now, you know.
Which is really sad, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. And so Maribel's character is Encarna. That's her name in the film. And so we see that Encarna is nursing him back to health. You know, she feeds him, she shaves him, which I would be really scared if I was him, because it's like those old school shavers, you know what I'm saying, where she could like slit his throat with that.
Yeah, but I'm sure she knew what she was doing.
Yeah, well, eventually she takes care of him. But I guess she wanted to secure the money first, you know?
Yeah.
So then he leaves the hospital in a wheelchair, you know, after he's good enough to leave, and she leaves with him. And the press is there taking photos because, you know, he's a famous bullfighter. And it's really cool editing with all the flashing of the cameras and stuff like that. And it's like, I guess they got married during that time, you know?
Yeah.
And the grandma sees this from the balcony of the hospital, and she's holding the baby, looking down, and she's like disheartened by it. You know, she's like, geez, what the fuck? Now he's with her, you know, and it's like, you know, I lost my daughter, and he doesn't want to do anything with the baby, you know. It's a pretty sad situation. Mm-hmm. So after, you know, when we see her sad, it fades out. And then we hear this flamenco music on the soundtrack, and, you know, we assume it's been a few years. And the grandma is with the baby, who is Carmencita.
Yeah.
Because her mom was Carmen.
Yeah.
So she's Carmencita, and...
so the junior version.
Yeah, exactly. And we assume it's been a few years. And how old would you say she's there? She's like fixing a dress for her. Is she like 6 or 7, would you say? Or a bit older?
She could be. Yeah, I mean, I would assume she's probably anywhere from 7, 8 years old. That's just my assumption.
Yeah, so we see grandma fixing her a dress, and she starts doing a few little flamenco moves, you know. Yeah, I'm sure she picked some of those up from grandma, and it's just in her blood, you know. I mean, that's pretty cool. It doesn't get more Spanish than that.
I don't
Having
think
a
so.
dad who's a bullfighter and a mom who's a flamenco dancer, you know.
Yeah, I feel like that's even stereotypical.
Yeah, but to me, that's what makes the film work so much. Like I was saying, like latching onto the culture. Um, and we see they have a pet rooster named Pepe, and he's cute. Um, and the grandma pokes herself with a needle, but then we see Carmencita suck the blood from her finger, and the grandma's all happy to see that.
Which is kind of odd.
Kind of weird, but it was the olden days in Spain. Um, and we see Carmencita help her in the kitchen, and she asks her if her dad will ever come around, you know, and she's kind of like, I don't know, I'm not sure. And then we see her looking at a photo album, and she has a picture of him, and you know, it's sad, you know, that it's like, well, where's my dad? She's wondering, and she sees,
I mean, because she knows that he's still in the picture somewhere.
yeah, but she's like, why doesn't he want to be with me, you know? And she sees pictures of her pretty mom, you know, and I think the photography is amazing here, you know. And then she sees a picture of Maribel in the wedding dress too.
No.
And she's like, "What the hell? What the hell's that?" You know?
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's not too happy to see that.
No, of course not. It's
Yeah.
like, how can this woman easily replace my mom?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we see that Carmencita is having her first communion, and she prays to see her dad. That's like her one wish, basically. And we see, you know, they're in the church, and I like the shot of the side of the cross. Like you see Jesus's body looking down on her. It's a really cool shot, I think. You know, it's pretty rare when it's like you get coverage with Jesus, like you get, you know.
But was that an implication that despite everything, he was still looking down upon her or something?
I mean, it could be, yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what I was getting from it.
To me, I just kind of like the iconography of it. You know, maybe you're right. Maybe that was part of the story. I just kind of like the visual of it.
Yeah, even though I feel like I could also touch upon bullfighting and religion, just those two alone, which I'll get to later.
I'm sure you can. So then we see her spinning at the little party that they're having, and she's blindfolded, and there's a gift from her father supposedly, and so she opens it, and it's an old school record player. It's a phonograph. That's what they used to call it.
Yeah, and I remember
phonograph because it has the old school like horn amp. You know.
Yeah, it was like the. Yeah, it was like the. Yeah, I would say like a horn speaker.
Yeah. Unquote. Yeah, exactly. Like the RCA record logo.
Yes.
With the dog. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's from her dad supposedly, and so she assumes her dad's around then if this is from him. So then she's like, where is he then? And she starts running, and then she sees a car driving off, and so she starts running after it, but the car just keeps driving away. So then she's sad, and she decides to play with her rooster Pepe, and she dreams like she has a hallucination of her mom dancing flamenco, but it's really her grandma doing it. But then she teaches her, and we see her teaching her how to do it, and she's like, "This is how you do flamenco," you know. And it's a really cool dance form, you know. I remember at our old apartment there was a flamenco studio right next door, right?
Yes, there was.
That was pretty cool. I used to like
And
hearing them tap,
yeah,
on
yeah,
the floor.
you could hear all the tapping on the floor, but then they ended up having to find another unit, about maybe another 15.
Yeah, yeah, it
Um,
sucks. Yeah, and this reminds me of like the Gypsy Kings. They were big at one point, at least in Spain. I know Chris. Sometimes he'll just be like "Bamboleo, bamboleo," like
oh, okay,
just just randomly, and
that's see, and that's another stereotypical thing right there.
yeah.
Very stereotypical.
I mean, I like their cover of Hotel California. I thought that was pretty cool, and I like how they don't change the lyric. Like they just say the same thing twice.
Okay.
Because they're like, "Welcome to see Hotel California, such a lovely place, such a lovely place." Like, like they don't say.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So, well, let me just say, I can't say enough about the editing and the cinematography. I think
Mhm.
it's amazing. It's so good. I can't emphasize it enough. So here, like I said, she's teaching her flamenco dancing, and the grandma, she's dancing really intensely,
Mhm.
and then we see the angles are getting kind of a little too close to her, a little like jagged, the
Mhm.
editing, and you figure something's gonna happen. So then we see her collapse and she dies.
Yeah.
So and then we see the record and the needle stop right there.
Yeah. But it makes you think, what other way could could she have died? I mean, it's like, well, she had to die right when she was dancing.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess it gave her like a heart attack or something like that. Um, but yeah, it's just tragedy after tragedy for Carmencita. She has no family now. Basically, I mean, her dad is still alive, but he doesn't really want anything to do with her. Um, and so in the
Unfortunately.
next scene, I think it's cool. So the dress she was wearing at the first communion, we see them dyeing it black. I think that's a cool touch. So
Mhm.
we see them dyeing the dress black, and that's what's cool about it being silent is that they're using the visuals to propel the story. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? They're not relying on dialogue, or a lot of films rely on voiceover narration. It's not using that at all. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's telling it mainly through visuals. Um, and then we see that she's being driven by this guy um, to her father's house, and I guess his estate is called Monte Olvido.
Mhm.
And the car stops at the front, and she walks out with her suitcase, and there's all these servants lined up there to kind of greet her, and we see Maribel comes out to greet her, and
Mm.
she takes her into the house, and when she walks into the house, there's a big painting of her father that she sees there, and she's kind of happy to see that. But then Maribel really, starts laying down the law. She tells her
Mhm.
that the second floor is off limits to her. And we see her suitcase starts to shake randomly, and Maribel's like, "What the hell? What the hell's that? And we're like, why is
Mhm.
it moving?" And then the rooster Pepe pops out, and Maribel is piased, and she tells the servants, she's like, "Take the rooster to
Oh,
the chicken coop." So when you see that, you figure uh, Pepe might not last long there.
sadly.
Yeah, and then she shows Carmencita her room, and it's like in the basement or something. It's like some basement barn area or something like
Yeah.
that. And yeah, she's not gonna live that great of a life here, as you can see.
Mhm.
And then Maribel cuts off all her hair, um, and she's like a servant after that. Like she's not pampered at all being there, and the fact that she's his daughter. She has to work like all these other servants. And
Yeah, that's a whole.
yeah, exactly. I mean, Maribel does a good job being a biatch in this. She does a really good job. I usually love her, but I really hate her in this movie.
No, I really hate her in this movie.
Yeah, great acting. And we see her, like, we see Carmencita, she's like churning butter or something like that. She's twisting something with her hands, and Maribel comes up and like pulls her hair while she's doing it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's just horrible way to treat a child, honestly.
Yeah. And with her short hair, she reminds me of the girl from the film Mouchette. The short-haired girl in that film. She kind of looks like her, especially with the black and white. Um, and so Carmencita, she has to get eggs in the barn, and Pepe is there to greet her, and she's happy to see him, and yeah. And so the rooster is almost like having like these mentors. I'm telling you, like I was saying in Partenope, how she encounters these mentors and buddies. It's part of the hero's journey. So the rooster is like having, like it's almost like a Disney, like Snow White Disney, like Timon and Pumbaa or something like that. The Pepe is one of her buddies and mentors.
I mean, she really had no one else at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess she really had to be friends with the rooster. Who
Yeah.
else could she go to?
Exactly. Sometimes your animal friends are your best friends, right?
Well, like the guy who's right here next to us.
Yeah. Tom Hanks, the cat. So then Pepe follows her to the kitchen where the maid is like cutting up chicken. And Pepe sees that and he's like, "Rawr," and he's scared and he flies off. It's kind of funny. And,
yeah, well, I'm sure he thought, hey, I might be next if I'm not careful.
Yeah, so he's running and he leaping and flying a little bit, and like we get to see shots from his perspective. It almost reminds me of the beginning of City of God. They're like chasing a rooster or a chicken, and we see from the chicken's perspective or whatever, like the really low angles of that. I love that. And so Carmencita goes upstairs and she sees Maribel dressed up in black, and she has a hat on, and then she sees her father's bullfighting stuff, and she finds Pepe under this sheet covering a bull, and he flies out, and she sees the room where her father is in the wheelchair, and he's just kind of sitting there sadly, and she sees him, and she tries to touch his face, and then Pepe comes out of nowhere and wakes him up, and he scares him, and he rings the bell that he has to like make noise, to get a hold of Maribel. And then he looks into his daughter's eyes, and he kind of it clicks for him, and then Maribel comes to the room all pissed off, and she's like annoyed that he needs help. She's like, "What the fuck do you want?" Whatever. And Carmencita hides somewhere, and he says he's thirsty. So she pours some water into a cup, but then she throws it in his face. And she smiles and walks away. And Carmencita, we see that she's under the bed, and she sees that, and she's, pissed off about that. And then we see Carmencita get out, and she looks into the keyhole of another room, and Maribel is with the driver guy who drove her to the house, and when she first went there, and they're doing like some role play sex stuff. She has a whip and like a skimpy outfit, and he's like on his knees and shit like that, and she's like, "What the hell?"
Which I find pretty. It's so pretty.
Yeah, I think they're trying to show that people have been freaky for a long time, Yeah. So she goes back to her dad, and he smiles at her, and he can see her mom in her face, and he starts to cry, but she tells him not to. Um, but he says that they're tears of joy, and she runs and hugs him, and he asks her to forgive him, for like abandoning her basically all these years. And, she seems to have forgiven him. She's just happy to have the embrace of her dad again, right?
Yeah.
And we see like some time passing, like with like there's a tear out calendar, so we see that some time is passing, and he reads books to her. And then we see a painter doing a painting of Maribel with a dog, and the driver guy is there, and Maribel is urging him to do something, and you're not really sure what. And we see the driver guy. He ends up being tied up like a dog, and Maribel is like holding him like with the leash or whatever. The painter is weirded out by that, but he's like, okay, well, whatever. Like that's what they're into. I'll paint that. And Carmencita is looking through this like carousel that like has a bullfighter. It's like basically the precursor to the cinema. Like it was like these circular things that showed like a little scene. It was like a frame by frame scene in the circular like Viewmaster thing. Yeah. So she's looking through that, and we see like a bullfighter fighting a bull. It's pretty cool. And he tells her, never take your eyes off the bull. That's like his main advice. And he kind of shows her how to do it. He's like, put your hands out like this, just to give him something to teach her,
Sure.
And you can see her in the bull's eye in the shot. And then we see Maribel. She's outside hunting rabbits with a bunch of guys and the dog. And Carmencita decides to play a record by her mother for her dad. And she shows him her dance, and she wears this polka dot flamenco dress, and she's dancing, and it's pretty cool. And then he imagines it's his wife dancing, Yeah. He can see his wife through her. And she spins him around, in the wheelchair. And, him being in the wheelchair, that also reminds me of Live Flesh, because Javier Bardem was in a wheelchair.
His character ends up in a wheelchair at one point. We don't want to spoil it too much.
Yeah.
If you get a chance, do watch that movie.
Yeah. To me, it could be my favorite Almodovar film, honestly. And he has a lot of great ones, but that could be my favorite, or at least one of them.
I mean, yeah, I think the same for me. It is.
And what's cool is that we got to see some areas where that was shot, right? A few of his films were shot.
A few locations that were used for some of his films.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pretty cool.
Because it was actually a tour done in Madrid by an Italian woman, which I would have never assumed that she was Italian if she hadn't said so, because she spoke perfect Spanish.
Yeah, exactly. It was really cool. I look forward to talking about that when we talk about those films, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So then we see Maribel come back to the house with the dogs, and she can hear the music playing. She can hear the flamenco music playing, and the music gets faster. Like, I love the tempo change of that. It starts going
intensity.
Yeah. So then she runs upstairs. She's like, "What the fuck?" And she opens the door, and she just sees him alone in the chair, asleep, like nothing is going on. And then she walks closer, and she sees that he's just asleep. And she looks around, and she looks over, and she sees the record player like slowly dying down. You know what I'm saying? And she's like, "What the fuck? Something's afoot here." You know what I'm saying? And then she sees the curtains move a little bit, and she she's like, okay, like whatever, whoever's here, I got you. And then all of a sudden, Pepe flies out,
Oh,
and then she smiles when she sees him. And Maribel invites Carmencita to eat with her for the first time, and she asks her.
oh wait, Maribel or Encarna?
Encarna asks Carmencita to eat with her for the first time, and she asks her, "Do you like peppery chicken?" And Carmencita is like, "What? Like, what do you mean?" And she's like, I mean like peppery chicken. You know, like, do you like that?" And Carmencita, she's scared. Um, and the maid brings out a plate, and she can see that it's Pepe on the plate.
Yeah.
And that just makes Carmencita really sad.
Well, I mean, I'm sure she's devastated.
Yeah, exactly. So she runs out, and Maribel tears a drumstick off of Pepe, and she wants to force feed Carmencita, but she won't eat it. But then she just takes a big bite out of it, but then she spits it out. And it just shows you how evil she is. Not only to kill her friend, but to cook him, and not even to eat him, but to spit him out. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just shows you what an evil biatch she is.
Of course, it's just further subjecting her to trauma. And no other with her dead best friend, really.
Yeah. So, like, Carmencita's pissed, and she, like, almost wants to fight Encarna, but then the driver guy carries her away, and, she can't do anything. And then we see Carmencita, she has, like, a little funeral for Pepe. She, like, buries him in the field, I guess what's left of him that she had, and you see a little cross there. It's sad, but
yeah,
it's cute, I guess, the fact that she did that for him. And then we see Carmencita. She's older now, and we see her hanging sheets. So it's like, maybe like, I guess supposed to be 5-6 years later.
I would say maybe.
Or more.
I would say maybe 10 years, because we assume that she was maybe about 8 years old earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe at least 10 years.
So, okay, yeah, like 10 years later, yeah, she's basically a grown up, and we see her hanging sheets outside, but she's also like practicing bullfighting with the sheets. She's doing the motions. And one day we see Maribel push her father down the stairs, and he dies. And someone, I guess one of the maids, tells Carmencita, and she's crying, and we see all these people taking pictures with his dead body. They're just propping his dead body up in his matador outfit, and
and sitting on the couch, and it's actually very disturbing.
Yeah, it's really disturbing. Yeah, it's really fucked up. And Karna wants to take all these pictures with him. Like she just wants the photo op of that. And all the whole staff is like taking pictures with him just to get a photo op. And then they want Carmencita to take a picture with him, which is just crazy,
Yeah.
But going back to the picture thing, like I'm telling you, like Almodovar said, and talked to her, like the photography, that was the worst part of it. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
So yeah, everybody has their turn taking pictures with him, and then Carmencita finally gets time with him, and she hugs him, but she's crying, but they force her. They're like, "Come on, take a picture," and so she takes a picture, and the cameraman tells her to smile, for the picture, and she forces one, but she's crying, like the whole thing is just fucked up.
I mean, and that's another like huge trauma.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's her dad, and on top of that, he's dead, and they're using him pretty much as a prop, really.
Yeah, exactly.
It's horrible.
Yeah. And then we see Maribel and Carna smoking by the fireplace, and she tells Carmencita to gather flowers for her father, but they have to be from very far away. And I guess the driver guy drives her out to some random field somewhere, and he's like supposed to kill her at this time. Like we see him put on these like killing gloves or whatever. Like he puts on these special killing gloves while she's like picking flowers, and he tries to sneak up behind her, but then he steps on a branch and she looks around to notice it, and she's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, nothing," you know. So then she goes back to picking the flowers, and then he comes up from behind her again, and he tries to choke her from behind. So he chokes her, and he's on top of her, and she's slowly, passing out, and he kisses her while he's on top of her. He thought he could just kiss her, but then she slaps him and runs off. So then he chases her, and she runs to the river, and he tries to drown her in the water. So he chokes her, and she passes out there. So then he's like, "Oh, okay, she's dead. My job's done here."
Yeah.
Or so he thought.
Yeah, right? he thought.
Yeah. So then he just goes back and drives back to Maribel and Con. But then we see Carmencita's body. She's being pulled out of the river by someone, and we see someone doing CPR on her. And then she wakes up. She's like coughing up water, and she's there, and she sees this guy's face really quickly. This guy smiling on top of her, and then she like falls asleep. Like she just like passes out after that.
But she doesn't. Yeah, it's like she briefly sees him, and then she just doesn't.
Yeah, she doesn't register it.
Yeah, so she just falls back to sleep.
Yeah, and then we see her wake up, and it seems like she's in some carriage or something. Like it's something that's like moving. She looks around confused, and then she sees all these little people around her, and she notices there's like some marks on her neck. Like, okay, what's this? Where'd this come from? And she asks like, "Who are all you guys?" And then they all say their names, and we see like little cards come up with each of their names, and it's funny. It's and the music is very circus like, and so they tell her that they go by Los Toreros Enanitos, right?
Yeah, it's like the little bullfighter dwarves.
Yeah, exactly. And she sees their show because they're like on a tour or something, and they do a little bullfighting show with a little bull with the calf, and she really likes it. She's entertained. The townspeople at the show are entertained. They really like it. We see each of them do their thing. We see each dwarf. The oldest dwarf, he reminds me of Danny DeVito and Matilda. He looks a lot like him to me.
What?
He just has that mustache and the slick back balding hair. He reminds me a lot of him.
But I feel that that hairy one would look as just very ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, and this guy, he looks a lot like that.
I would not put him in there.
Well, to me, he reminds me of him, and so that DeVito dwarf, he gets a rose from a lady from the crowd, but then the calf runs up on him, and she's horrified, but then the crowd is laughing, like.
How is that coming?
The crowd's like, because they think it's like part of the show. Like they just think it's, whatever happens, they'll be able to deal with it. But then Carmencita is like kind of scared, and so she asks, one of the little people like, is anyone gonna help? And the guy says, yeah, well, the crowd loves it, so let's just keep it going or whatever. Um, so then she jumps in, and they're like, "What the hell are you doing?" You know what I'm saying? So she jumps into the arena. She steps into the arena, and we see her skills. Like she starts doing the bullfighting thing, and they're like, "Oh shit!" Like she knows what she's doing. They're like, "Oh shit, she's good." And everyone's like, "Woo!" Like, yeah, like this girl's good. Like she's better than that guy. You know what I'm saying? Like she starts kicking ass. Like it's funny. Yeah, I love that scene. And it like, to me, it almost, this reminds me of like someone asking me to like fill in to DJ or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, like we were at a party before in New York, right? And there was this guy DJing, and he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna smoke. You just play whatever you want." He wasn't really expecting much of it, but
well, he was even trying to show Kevin how to run the turntable. Like he just assumed that he had never played records in his life, and oh whoa, he was way wrong.
Yeah, yeah. So like seeing her come in and having this skill set, even better than these guys reminded me a lot of that. So yeah, she kills it, and the crowd fucking loves it, and they applaud, and she feeds off that energy. It's like the first time in her life that she's felt some sort of admiration. You know what I'm saying? I guess, except for when she was really little. With her father and her grandma.
Yeah.
This is like the first time she's ever felt that, and so they ask her, like, how'd you know how to do that? And she says, I don't know. Like, I mean, I guess she was lying about that, right? Like,
yeah, well, I mean,
she didn't want
to reveal her whole backstory.
Yeah, exactly. So she just says, I don't know. So they invite her to stay with them, and she says yes. It's like she doesn't want to go back to Maribel. She's like, fuck that. I'd rather stay with you guys. And they ask her name, and she doesn't say anything because she's like thinking, what should I tell them? But then one of them says, "Oh, we'll call you Blancanieves." Because we're a bunch of dwarves. And then they're like, they all kind of laugh at that. So that's really why they call it that. I mean, the film is kind of based on the story of Snow White, but it's like a reinterpretation of it. It's like Snow White exists, so that's why they're calling her Snow White, is because they're aware of the story. You know what I'm saying? So there's like a couple layers to it, and she likes that idea. But then the DeVito dwarf, he's pissed off. Like we see him like in the corner.
I just think it's so cool that you keep calling him
that. He's like pissed off that all of a sudden they all love her, and he's like hurt. He's like in the corner nursing his wounds. Um, he's pissed.
Oh, jeez.
And then they get her a torero outfit. And I feel like she looks good with that. Like, I think having the short hair really works for her for the bullfighting. You know what I'm saying? It really matches the whole thing, So the fact that was forced to have that short hair, it ended up working out for her stylistically, I think, later on. Because I feel like when I see that actress with long hair, it looks weird to me. Like, I feel like she looks better with short hair.
I mean, I guess. It depends.
Yeah.
And I think she can pull off both of them.
Right, but I don't know. Maybe I prefer her with short hair. So they market her with them now. You know what I'm saying? She's part of their act. And we see them unveiling a painting. And she loves it. They all love how it came out, her with them. And we finally get to see her happy with them. You know what I'm saying? Like I was saying. But the older DeVito looking one, he doesn't like it, because he's not the star anymore. He was the star before. Now she took it away from him, so he's pissed. And then we see this like producer guy or whatever. I mean, I guess he's not a producer, but he comes out of nowhere and he gives her a card, and he's like this sleazy guy. and he gives her a card, and she says she doesn't know how to read. But he tells her he's a bullfighting agent, and he says he can get her to bullfight at the biggest stadium, and if she would like that, and the money, and she's intrigued, and he offers her a contract, and she's excited, and the dwarves are excited, but since she can't read, she doesn't realize that it says it's for life, the contract.
Yeah.
Like she has to work with him for life.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
So that's a curveball, amongst all this happiness that she's feeling now. It's a curveball. And then we see Encarna. She's being interviewed by like some magazine or something, and so they're taking pictures, and they're taking pictures of her in different outfits and the house, and she's like living a glamorous life, like she's Sheila E. or something like that, like she's living it up.
Yeah, with all the crookedness she has pulled off.
Yeah, exactly. And so that driver guy, I guess his name is General Bilbao. Is his name, and
it's just interesting that he would have been named after a city.
Right. Yeah. And he's there still with her, and it's like we see what she's living, this glamorous life, being interviewed by magazines, and then we see Carmencita with the dwarves, and they're about to eat some poultry or something. I think it's like quail or something. It's like some sort of smaller bird that they're eating, but then she looks at it and she can't eat it because it reminds her of Pepe. So then she just kind of leaves the dish, and then we see her dancing with the dwarves, and she's happy, and fireworks are going off, and it's like the perfect night. She's really happy, but then we see the DeVito dwarf still pissed off. That's not him.
That's not him.
No.
Okay. Well then, if it's not him, let me see if it's one of the other ones I saw.
Yeah, it doesn't say his name. Maybe on IMDb it says his name, but.
Or is it this guy?
Oh yeah, I think it is that guy.
Okay.
Yeah, but his hair is all gray now.
Oh yeah, it is. Well, his name was Jesusin.
Jesusin?
Yes.
I thought that was the handsomer guy. I thought that was what was?
Yeah. Well, this is. It's
okay.
that was
okay. Yeah. Okay. So Jesusin.
Yes.
What about the other guy, like the main guy that she really likes?
I'm trying to find him. Because,
well, speaking of which, so that guy, the handsome dwarf guy, we can see that he's like falling in love with Carmencita. But then Jesusin, the older one, he's pissed off, and we even see him throw a knife at her painting. So we know that he's pissed off. And then we see Maribel. She picks up the magazine that she's supposed to be in. She's like, yeah, like, and she thought she was going to have the cover, but then she looks at it, and the main story is Carmencita, this female bullfighter taking over the world. Yeah. And she's like, what the fuck? And so, but she doesn't realize that's her. So she looks in the magazine looking for her article, and you don't even see Encarna's face. You just see like her back with like the furniture and stuff, and she's pissed. So then she goes to General Bilbao, and she knocks him over the head with like this little statue, just to like hit him on the head, but then she actually kills him. And she's like, oh,
she did more than she actually wanted to.
Yeah. But then Encarna, looks at that magazine, and she kind of puts two and two together, and she's like, shit, I think that's her. You know what I'm saying? I think that's Carmencita. It has to be. Like, who else could that be? And then she reads in the newspaper that Carmencita is going to do a bullfighting event, and she smiles mischievously, because she's excited by that, because I guess she plans on doing something. So then we see this big ass Coliseum, and we see Carmencita praying before the match, and she sees the locket of her mom, and Jesusine, the pissed off dwarf, he goes into the stables of the bulls, and so he switches the sign because there's a sign where she's supposed to fight the calf, but then he switches the sign to say this big bull is for her instead. Okay, so if you're watching this, we had to record this in two parts.
Yeah, I fell asleep. My bad.
Yeah, it got kind of late. Aileen fell asleep, but that's okay because we're here to finish off the rest of this. So, where we left off, Carmencito is about to do the big bullfighting match, and the Danny DeVito looking dwarf guy.
Why do you keep referring to? I thought we said
yeah,
what his.
I know, but I'm just saying that to catch people up. So his name is Jesusine. Yeah, Jesusine equals Danny DeVito looking guy.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
So he switched the signs. So there was like she's supposed to fight the calf, but he switched the sign, like the calf sign that was for her. He switched it with this bigger, more violent bull, because he's so pissed off that she took the spotlight from him.
Oh, yeah.
So he did that on purpose. And then she's hugging the rest of them. She's hugging the rest of the dwarves, and she tells them that they're like her family, basically, because she doesn't have, a family anymore, a nuclear one, like a blood family,
Well, not that she really needs to.
Yeah, but she tells them like, okay, you're like my family. She hugs and kisses them, and she's about to kiss like the handsome one, like the handsome dwarf. Yeah, quote unquote.
Because I mean,
yeah,
it's just really weird how they're being judged over how over their looks, really.
You mean by me or by who?
Or I guess,
or just in general,
or by the viewers in general.
Yeah, but you can tell they kind of give him more of the shine because he's like the most handsome one, I guess, of them all, right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. He gets the most screen time of all the dwarves, except for Jesusine is probably second place because he's the antagonist. You know what I'm saying?
I guess.
So yeah, she's hugging and kissing them, and she's about to kiss the handsome one, but then Jesusine sees that and's like, oh, like no kiss for me. And she blows him a kiss, genuinely, and he smiles mischievously at that. And then we see Maribel come in.
Oh, you mean
Encarna?
Encarna, yes.
Because she's like evil incarnate. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I mean, exactly.
Yeah. So Encarna comes in, and the old man who's like, I guess he was like friends with her dad, with Carmencita's dad, he recognizes her. He recognizes Carmen because I guess he went to the bullfighting match just because he's a fan of bullfighting, but then he's there and he recognizes
Carmen.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and he tells her, "Oh, your dad would be proud," and she's like happy about that, but then she like kind of makes her nervous too, and it makes her sad. So she like thinks twice about that. Like she's like, like he would be proud. So she is happy, but then she's like sad, and she almost is like gonna have a panic attack or something like that. She's like really, sad and nervous about that, thinking about her dad and then her mom. And then all of a sudden the match starts. The big bull comes out, and she's like, "Oh shit!" Like, and it's about to run at her and attack her, but then it just stops right in front of her. And it's just kind of shocking. Like the crowd is like gasping, like, "Oh, what's going on?" And the handsome dwarf, he asks like, "Who switched the calf for the bull? Like, what's going on?" and then this flamenco music kicks in, and it goes back to this like Russian Ziga Vertov like editing, this like frenetic editing, and then the bull charges after her, and she remembers her dad said, "Never take your eye off the bull." So she turns around and starts to fight it, and she starts kicking ass. Like she starts really doing really well, and the crowd loves it, and Encarna is pias. Like she's like fuck. Like she's like she's actually succeeding at this, you know. And then the crowd realizes who she is. You know, they kind of start to whisper. There's like word of mouth throughout the stadium, and they're like, "Oh, she's his daughter." You know, like it starts to spread throughout the place, and Encarna actually claps at her performance.
Yeah. I guess that was the twist right there.
Yeah, or maybe she just claps like like not genuinely, you know. But then the time comes and she has to like kill the bull. You know, we see her like, you know, pointing that sword at it, and it's like, and she was like proud and happy, but then she looks at it and she's like, oh wow, like I gotta like kill this guy now, and she kind of feels sad for him, you know. And she just sees him, oh, he's just like a defenseless, tired animal, you know. And she looks up at the sky and like she sees her dad, and he gives her his blessing, you know, like he's like Mufasa in the sky, you know what I'm saying? Like she looks up and sees him, and like the crowd starts to wave white handkerchiefs and stuff, and they're asking for the bull to be pardoned, and they're like waving it around the whole crowd, and they didn't want to see him die, and so like the judge let her pardon him, and the bull runs back into the stables, and it's like it's nice that she didn't have to shed blood there, you know. And she feels the adulation of the crowd, and she smiles, and she tries to soak it up, and she walks the track with the dwarves, and like the crowd throws roses at them. But Jesusin, he's still pretty pissed off. So Encarna.
Which I don't blame him for it, to be honest.
Why? Because he got overtaken, you know?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, she's better, you know? She's better than he is, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I guess you do have to acknowledge that she is better.
Yeah. It's like Wally Pip syndrome, you know what I'm saying? Like, so Wally Pip, you know, he played for the Yankees. He played first base for the Yankees in the 20s or whatever, and he was pretty good. He was like pretty solid. He was a solid player, and he like never missed a game. He never missed a game his whole career. But I guess one day he like told the coach like, oh, you know, I'm feeling kind of a headache or whatever, and the coach was like, the manager was like, oh, just take a rest, you know, take the day off. We have a good player who can take your spot for the day, you know. And he's like, okay. So like they sat him, and they put in this rookie in, and that rookie did really well in that game. So Wally Pip, he never played again. He never started again for the Yankees. So because that player that they put in was Lou Gehrig, and he hit like 2 home runs or something in his first game or whatever. And he never missed a game after that. You know what I'm saying? He like Lou Gehrig is known for his streak of consecutive games. He played like 2,000 whatever games in a row. The only thing that stopped him from playing was his illness. You know what I'm saying? And his death. So that's I like this guy has like Wally Pip syndrome. You know, he was the man, you know, at one time, but then this girl kind of stumbled in and took his place, and yeah, I think he's salty about it, but you have to admit that she's better than his ass is. You know what I'm saying? So, unfortunately, he got stuck with that. Um, and we see Encarna, she's going to give an apple that she injected with poison to Carmencita, and you could
So
see.
yes, here's that part.
Yeah, and you see her like, it's like a flashback, and she's like injecting the apple with like this poison. Like I like how they they make it seem like they put like the skull and crossbones on it on the poison, and she's about to give it to her, and she looks at her all weird, like and I don't know if I would just take an apple and eat it from some random person, after that. And I mean, and I'm sure she recognizes her, like, but it doesn't really, you don't really see if she does recognize her, like it doesn't come out in the dialogue or anything like that. But
not really, but I have the feeling she did.
Yeah, because like, how could she not? You know what I'm saying?
I do have the feeling she did recognize her.
Yeah, and Maribel, yeah, I mean, Encarna, yeah, she gives it to her, and Carmencita is about to bite the apple, but then the old guy in the crowd throws her dad's hat, his bullfighting hat, to her, and that like distracts her, and she's like, oh, like, she's like, and he says, oh, that was your dad's, and she's like all proud and happy, to have that hat. Like I was saying, Kevin's hat, that I guess it's called.
Oh yeah, from the book.
Yeah, from the book.
Yes. I don't know if I've ever seen that book anywhere else.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like,
yeah,
like, does that book only exist for me to find it or something like that? Like, I don't think it's a well-known book at all.
Probably not. But now that you're mentioning it, I'm going to Google it. So look up Kevin's hat whenever you have the chance, and see if you can find that book anywhere.
Yeah. So then Carmencita does bite the apple, and Encarna sees her bite it, and she sees her eat it from her binoculars, and then Carmencita passes out, and the dwarves think she's dead at that point, and Jesusine sees her and sees the apple, and he points at Encarna in the crowd. So it's like he's trying to redeem himself, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Like, because he hated her, but he's actually trying to help her in this case. So he points at Encarna in the crowd, and the dwarves chase her with like sticks and spears and stuff like that. It's almost like a Frankenstein type of thing, like the whole like townspeople trying to kill him, and she hides in the stable, but they find her, and she's scared. Like they're about to attack her, but then we see like their shadows get bigger over her, and it like consumes her and engulfs her, and she screams, and we can assume that they killed her. I like the shot of that. It's very like silent film, German expressionism. I mean, that's kind of the big style from the silent era, was like German expressionism. If you see like the film The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and Dr. Mabuse, those films, those are textbook examples of German expressionism. And then we see Carmencita being carried off by some men in the crowd, like she's like crowd surfing, and we see that handsome elf is crying, handsome dwarf, whatever. Elf, dwarf.
Which I never actually really learned all their names.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, it comes out in that montage, but I forget them all, and then we see a circus, and the guy who's like running the show, he's the guy who made her sign that contract at the beginning.
Yeah.
Who's like, you're working for me for life. So even though she's quote unquote dead, she's still working for him, and he's using her as like a freak, basically. And so he's like, meet Blancanieves, like she's the, the, sleeping beauty, quote unquote, so they're kind of marketing her as like Blancanieves, hence the title of the film, I guess, So the guy who had her, yeah, like I said, the guy who had her sign the contract is like using it. He's like the Spanish P.T. Barnum kind of, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and it's weird. So it's like she's in a coma or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like she can breathe, but she can't wake up. You know. And he's charging people to kiss her. You know, he's charging guys, you know, money to kiss her, and you know, like to quote unquote try to wake her up. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, this guy would have been canceled today, to say the least. You
Oh
know,
yeah, of course it would be.
um,
Rightfully so.
yeah, and so all these guys line up to kiss her, and there's like this older, smooth guy. He tries to kiss her, but you know, nothing happens. And the handsome dwarf, it's like he's tortured having to see this, you know, because he really loves her deep down inside, but now he has to see her being kissed by all these guys, you know, it's like torture for him.
Yeah.
And this one guy kisses her, and she like gets up, and the guy like freaks out. He like freaks out and runs away, but it's really just the guy he's hitting like a crank that lifts her up, you know, to make it seem like she's woken up or whatever. It just like pushes her up and then, you know, pushes her back down. And so that guy ran off, and it's kind of interesting. Like I said, she has longer hair now. You know, it's like I got so used to seeing her with shorter hair. I guess you know, like
Yeah.
seeing her with a bit longer hair it seems kind of strange. And at the end of the night, uh, the handsome dwarf he lies with her and he kisses her, and he walks away, and then we see a single tear like come out of her eye and roll down the side of her face,
Yeah.
and then just fades out. And then there's this like sad music box version of the theme. You know, it's kind of a sad ending, but I think it's a beautiful film. And if you see till the very end credits, because I saw the very end, there was a thing that said "for my parents." So I guess the director
Yeah.
dedicated this film to his parents,
Yeah.
Pablo Berger. Um, yeah, I think it's a beautiful film. I think it's really well done.
Yeah.
Probably the best version of the Snow White story that I've seen
I mean,
for my money.
Yeah, in a sense, but there are things that I would like to point out about it. So
Sure.
did we ever actually say where we first saw this movie?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I saw it just on streaming. Like it was streaming. I remember they were gonna play it at like Landmark in when it first came out, like 2012 or 2013 or whatever. And I wanted to see it, but I didn't end up seeing it. I didn't see it until like streaming, like you know, a few years after that on Netflix or something. And then I think I showed it. Oh wait, no, we saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we did see it in a theater somewhat.
well, in a sense, well, not exactly a theater, but they were playing it somewhere where they. So here's the thing. So they actually played it at, if you're familiar with SDMA at Balboa Park, that's where we saw it.
Yeah, and why did we see it there? Because they were just having a movie night, right?
Yeah, they used to have movie nights every so often. Unfortunately, they no longer do that. It was back when they would still play movies in the auditorium. But ever since they decided to lay off whoever run that and other great programs that were run there. Yeah, so that's no longer the case.
Yeah, but it was cool to see it at least in a theater setting. Maybe that one day they'll re-release it in the theaters and we could see it again.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to mention about this?
Well, I do want to mention, and this is where I'm about to get to, I think the fact that this movie was redone and, from Spain, I think that's great. And I like a lot of aspects of their culture. But one thing I would like to bring up is the bullfighting aspect. And while I get that that's part of the culture, I also am against it. because that is a form of animal cruelty, and there shouldn't be a reason why we should be doing it, especially for entertainment, really. Because I understand that bullfighting is a sport and it's also a form of entertainment for the spectator.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, no animal should be suffering in vain.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's one thing to eat them, to have them for food.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing just for sport, what I'm saying, for entertainment
Mm-hmm.
value. And I think eventually they'll probably outlaw it, in Spain and other
Yeah,
countries. I'm sure
yeah,
they will eventually. I think it's just, taking a while to get there.
yeah. I mean, we'll see about that because I know in Mexico it's still allowed. I know that they even still have bullfighting performances still
Yeah.
happen there.
Or if they can just do it, I don't mind them doing it without killing them. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, but how do you do that without even trying to harm them?
yeah, well, the whole thing is, I mean, I don't know. You would try to have an ethical way of doing it, or then you can do beyond bullfighting or something like, like I don't know,
How silly.
AI bulls or something.
I I don't know if we can try to come up with a concept really and for me to see the details, but I just think that other than that, it's just something that probably shouldn't happen.
It's bullshit, Aileen. Literally.
Okay.
Anything else you wanted to mention about this? I mean, like I said, if you haven't seen this, I really urge you to see it. I think it's, yeah, probably the best telling of this story. Like I said, the cinematography and editing is off the chain.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool that it's silent, in that style. It just gives it more of a stylization.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Um,
And really, it proves that really good actors don't really need to have a voice. If you know, because especially when they first started doing films back in the 20s, they were silent. So as long as they were able to express themselves like through their body language, they didn't really have to speak in a way. And I think that's if they can pull that off, that I think that's really great.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, you can say so much with a look. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Just
of
a frame
course.
or two of someone's eyes can say so much.
Oh
You know
yeah,
what I'm
of
saying?
course.
And that's the whole point of cinema, this seventh art form that we're talking so much about and praising. That's why it's my favorite art form, is because it's the art form where all things come together. You know what I'm saying? You do music, you do acting, you do wardrobe, you do photography, you do sound design. You know what I'm saying? And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people like to say theater can do that. Can do all that too. But the one thing that theater is missing from that
Yeah.
is editing,
Mm-hmm.
because you can edit the the film, the footage. That's what makes it more plastic. It gives it
Mm-hmm.
that plasticity. You know what I'm saying? And that's
Yeah.
what I love about film. All right. Well, thanks for listening to another episode of Briterion Bollection. Biatches. That was Blancanieves. Hope you check it out. Let us know what you think of the film on the YouTube comments or Spotify comments. We're on Spotify too, so just search for us on Spotify. You can listen to all the episodes there. Thanks, Aileen, for joining me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Of course.
All right, thanks for listening. Peace out. Bye.
Bye.